Welcome to Unbelievable Stories. Today's story is full of shocking twists and real drama. Subscribe and like to stay updated. Let's dive in. Picture this scenario: after 23 years of marriage, your beloved wife requests one last wish before she passes away. However, it's far from ordinary. She desires to spend a weekend with your closest friend, Mike, citing it as her final wish. I was taken aback, my heart breaking into countless fragments. How could the woman I cherished, the mother of my children, ask for something so unimaginable, and have my so-called best friend comply? This sense of betrayal was overwhelming. What followed was my harsh strategy for vengeance. This is my account. At 45 years old, I'm married to Sophie, who's a year my junior. Earlier this year marked our 23rd wedding anniversary, celebrated with a delightful week-long cruise to the Southern Caribbean. Our son, Dylan, recently turned 25, holds a degree in computer engineering, and is happily married to his wonderful wife, Grace, who brings immense joy to our family. Our daughter, Olivia, is 24, pursuing a career in music education as the assistant choral director at our local high school, a role she finds fulfilling. She's recently married to Ethan, and they are thriving together. While we haven't welcomed grandchildren yet, we're content enjoying our time without rushing into parenthood. Sophie and I have shared a strong and supportive marriage. We've consistently been each other's pillars, addressing each other's needs. Although our intimate life has mellowed over the years, it has remained satisfying for both of us. Sophie frequently played Bubbly by Colby Calais, a song she felt encapsulated her feelings for me perfectly. She had an innate ability to make me feel cherished. We often spent time with our friends Mike and Emily, whom I've known since junior high. Sophie and I are also godparents to their 3 adult children, with our kids affectionately referring to them as Uncle Mike and Aunt Emily. Our families are tightly knit, having shared numerous vacations together. To me, Sophie is the most beautiful woman in the world, with Emily coming in a close second. Nevertheless, we've always maintained clear boundaries, dancing with each other's spouses but never crossing any lines. My loyalty to Mike and Emily was unwavering, just as it was to Sophie. Our seemingly perfect life took a drastic turn when Sophie began feeling unwell. A visit to the doctor led to a swift referral to an oncologist, where we received the devastating news of stage 4 pancreatic cancer, an incurable diagnosis. The prognosis was grim: approximately 6 months left, with the initial 4 months offering relatively good quality of life, and the final 2 necessitating palliative care to manage her pain. Shocked, we shared the news with our loved ones. Dylan and Olivia, along with their spouses, returned home to support us, though Sophie preferred not to disrupt their lives. Mike and Emily were equally devastated, yet their support was invaluable. Sophie entrusted them with the responsibility of caring for me after her passing and even encouraged me to consider dating again in the future. Not ready to discuss such matters, I remained silent, determined to be the best husband I could be for her until the very end. Sophie didn't want to waste time feeling sorry for herself. I suggested she quit working, but she insisted on keeping her job for consistency. Interestingly, her desire for intimacy increased, and she wanted to try new things. Despite her illness, she became more adventurous in our sex life, and we enjoyed many special moments together. When we weren't home, we were out with Mike and Emily, making the most of every moment. "Jake, have you been enjoying our sex life lately?" "Yeah, babe, it's like you're trying to exhaust me, but I'm not complaining. Every moment with you is special and unforgettable." "That's what I'm trying to do, honey. I won't be around much longer, and I want us to make enough special memories to last you a lifetime. Sophie, we've been having so much fun lately, and I don't want to waste a single moment just doing nothing." "I knew that's how you felt, Jake. I'm ready for anything whenever you want to do it. I'm glad you said that because I want to talk to you about something important." "Sure, honey, what's on your mind?" "I love you more than words can say, Jake. You're the best husband any woman could ask for, and I'm so grateful for all the happy times we've had together. We've been intimate a lot lately, and I want to make sure you're happy as I get closer to the end. I've loved every minute of it, Sophie. I couldn't ask for a better wife, and I want to keep making memories with you. Well, all this intimacy has made me think about things I haven't tried yet. I keep thinking about new experiences I want to have before I'm gone. Before we got married, you told me you had been with other people, and that's okay. I was a virgin when we married, and am happy I gave you that gift. But now I'm wondering if you would support me in having an experience with another man before it's too late. I'm not talking about an affair, just one weekend, and then I can put it behind me. Would you be okay with that, Jake? I can't explain why, but I really need this. Jake was surprised. He wasn't expecting to hear this. Honey, I hope you're just going through a phase and this feeling will pass soon, or maybe you're just joking. Please tell me you're not serious. I am serious, Jake. I don't have time to play games. This is important to me. It's all I can think about. I need this. Please tell me you understand and will give me this gift, she pleaded. Jake's head was spinning. His wife wanted to be with another man, and she wanted his permission. Sophie, I've loved you since the day we met. You're the best wife a man could ask for. I would do anything for you, but I don't know if I can share you with another man. Before we go any further, who did you have in mind? Were you planning on meeting someone new? Of course not. Don't be silly. I would never risk getting sick. I've thought about this a lot, and I've talked to Emily and Mike. They understand. It would have to be someone I know, love, and respect. Mike is the man I would be with for just one weekend. Then that need would be met, and it would all be in the past. Jake was stunned. His wife had talked to his best friends behind his back and convinced Mike to be with her for a whole weekend. So you're going to be with my best friend, and he's going to be with his wife, and his wife is planning to be with me, and you think he'll be happy to be with her in return? You must be joking, he said angrily. Nobody's cheating, honey. I'm suggesting a swap. It's not cheating if you know about it and agree to it. That's why I'm talking to you now. Nothing's happened yet, I swear. I need this, Jake. If you love me, you'll let me have this as my dying wish. Jake was shocked. So you're saying if I love you, you're not sure that I do, and calling it a dying wish is a low blow. You're not thinking straight, sweetheart. This is crazy talk. I can't go along with this. If you do this, it will be the end of us. Sophie persisted. Jake, since we got married, you've always given me everything I want. You've taken me on amazing vacations, bought me fancy cars, and let me buy all the clothes and shoes I could ever want. Why is this so different? Did I ever send you on vacation alone with another man? No, it was always you and me. Did you buy those clothes to wear for another man? No, you bought them to please me. It has always been just the two of us together, Sophie. Maybe that is too much to ask now, but it would ruin our marriage for me. Please think about it this way: after I'm gone, you will probably be with other women before you decide to remarry. I won't ever have that chance. Can't you see that what I'm asking is fair? I'm sorry you had to make such a big sacrifice being with me and no one else all this time. Once you're free of me, you can try out as many men as you want. You won't even have to worry about pregnancy or STDs. You'll have it made, I said sarcastically. Her anger started rising. Look, I've always put my needs aside to take care of you and our children. I don't regret a single second of it, but now I feel you should be a bit more understanding and put your ego aside just this one time and let me have this, she explained. Let me ask you, Sophie, if you weren't dying, would you still want to have sex with another man? Be honest. I don't know. Maybe. Well, thank you for being honest. I'm sorry that I'm not enough for you. She winced but kept going. Let me ask you a question, Jake. If I never got cancer and I asked you to be intimate with another man, would you deny me that experience? Of course not. Once we were divorced, you could do whatever you want with whoever you want, but you'd never get to experience me again. She ignored my threat and continued. Haven't you always wanted me to have everything? You've always given me more than I asked for. Would you start denying me now as I make my dying request? Sophie, I once believed that I was your everything. Thank you for showing me I was wrong. She started crying and ran out of the room. Normally, I would try to comfort her, but this was different. I hope she changes her mind. I heard her talking on the phone with someone but couldn't hear what was said. 10 minutes later, I heard a car pulling into our driveway. Mike and Emily didn't just decide to drop in for a visit. This is an ambush. As she went to the front door to greet them, I quietly slipped out the back door and walked through the neighborhood. I left my phone on the kitchen table so contacting me would be hard. I had a lot to think about as I walked. When I returned about 45 minutes later, their car was gone. I felt their attempt to ambush me had failed. Where have you been? I've been worried sick. Mike and Emily stopped by, and we didn't know where you were, Sophie said when you were upset earlier. I felt we both needed space, so I went for a walk. I don't recall Mike and Emily saying they were stopping by today. What's going on? She gave me a cold look. They were running errands and just happened to be nearby, so they stopped in for a short visit. We've both dropped in on each other dozens of times over the years. It's a shame you missed them. They wanted to talk with you about our earlier conversation. I assure you their eagerness is one-sided. I have no desire to talk to either of them about the bomb you dropped on me earlier. But they are our best friends, your best friends. Who better to talk to about what's on your mind? They were my best friends, but that ended today. From now on, they're your best friends. I will no longer have anything to do with them. You can't mean that, Jake. Why are you being so stubborn about this? All I did was have a conversation with you, nothing more. Are you willing to throw away a lifetime friendship without a word? You're a better man than that. I know you are, and so does Mike. I assume you talked with them about our conversation while they were here? Of course I did. What do you expect? They're our best friends. That's what friends do. They help each other. I figured as much. And what advice did Mike give you about our problem? They know the kind of man you are, Jake. They agree you are the kindest, most understanding husband, father, and friend anyone could ever have. He reminded me that you helped him get hired at the same place you work. He said he knows no better man. I'm sure that's not all he said, Sophie. What else did he say about our problem? He said he sees both sides of our situation, and even though he's been your best friend for most of your life, you're not the one who's dying. He said special allowances should be made for those who will soon leave this world. His advice makes perfect sense. I agree with him. And what, dear wife, was his advice? I asked sarcastically. She grimaced before saying, he said it was easier to get forgiveness than permission. You will get neither from me, I seethed before walking away. If Mike and Emily weren't history to me before, they certainly are now. The friendship is over. I will limit all contact with Mike at work to a professional level only. We work in different areas, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Later that evening, Sophie gradually aroused me and used it to have her way with me again. Sophie was happy with the amount of sex they were having, but I felt like she was keeping score. In truth, I didn't mind as long as she didn't cross a line, which I didn't think she had yet. We had been intimate every night that week. On Friday morning before work, Sophie told me, honey, I have something to say before you leave. Tonight at 9 p.m., I'm going to Mike and Emily's house. Mike and I will leave from there. He said you won't talk to him about anything but work and you don't answer his calls or texts anymore. Emily said you don't talk to her either. I'll be back Sunday afternoon, and I'm really looking forward to being with you then. I'm telling you this so you'll come straight home after work tonight. I want to make sure you're completely satisfied before I leave, okay? My world felt like it was falling apart. Everything was about to change. Sophie was going to do what she wanted. Sophie, you know I love you, but I don't love you enough to forgive you for being with another man. And yes, I call it cheating because I don't agree with it, and I don't want you to do it. If you're with Mike or any other man this weekend, I won't be here when you come back. I'll never talk to Mike or Emily again, and I won't have anything to do with our godchildren. You'll all be betraying me in the worst way. If you sleep with him, I won't touch you again, I said sadly. Sophie started to cry. Mike and Emily had told her I would forgive her, so she couldn't believe I wouldn't be there for her as she got closer to the end. After tonight, my dear husband, you'll know exactly who I love and need in my life you. But I need this too. I'm sorry you can't consider my feelings and give me my dying wish. She tried to kiss me goodbye, but I avoided her and left quickly. I heard her crying as I walked out the door, hoping she would change her mind. I came home for lunch to check on Sophie. She had a suitcase packed and hidden under the bed with underwear I would never seen before. It seemed like her decision was made, so now I had to make mine. Before going back to work, I sent her a text. I have to work late tonight on a special project. Sorry, not sure when he'll be home. Please change your mind about going with him. I left my phone on the kitchen table. I wouldn't be there for her that night. I wanted her to worry and hopefully change her mind. Later, Mike found me at work. Jake, you need to stop being so stubborn. Think about Sophie, not just yourself. This is her dying wish. I can't say no to her. What I see is my so-called best friend telling me he's going to sleep with my wife to make her happy. I can't stop you from ruining my marriage, but you need to know that there will be consequences. If you touch Sophie, then you, Emily, and my godchildren will be out of my life forever. It will end my marriage and our friendship. I guess you'll become Sophie's new boyfriend because I won't touch her after you've been with her. Jake, this isn't like you. You're a better man than this. You don't mean any of it. I know you better than you know yourself. I don't care what you think you know. I meant every word. Now get out of my office, or do you want to explain to the boss why you're wasting my time? Mike knew I was angry and wouldn't listen to reason. He hoped that after Sophie and I were intimate that night, things would work out better. I was furious and shaking with rage. Nothing they could say would change my mind. It seemed like Mike and Emily cared more about Sophie than me. I was usually easygoing, but there were some things I wouldn't accept. I left work early to avoid Mike and went to the gym, where I hardly ever went. I wanted to work out my anger and not be sore the next day. As I exercised, I felt a mix of sadness, anger, and helplessness. I cried a little but managed to avoid sobbing in front of others. I left the gym at 7:30 after showering, feeling a bit better but still with problems to solve. I went to a restaurant Sophie and I enjoyed for special occasions. I thought about all the good times we had there, feeling both happy and sad as I considered my options. I wondered if I was really strong enough to stick to what I had said to Sophie. Were my beliefs so important that I was willing to lose everything over them? We had 23 wonderful years before this happened. I never thought I would face this with her. I thought about beating up Mike, but what good would that do? He knows how I feel and still plans to go through with it, even if I threatened him. Sophie had already admitted she might have wanted this someday, even without the cancer. When I didn't come home that evening, Sophie got worried. She saw my cell phone on the kitchen table. She guessed I left it there when I texted about working late. Hey Mike, it's Sophie. I know it's you, silly. I would recognize your sweet voice anywhere. How are things at home with Jake? Peaceful, I hope, Mike asked. That's what I'm calling about. Do you know why Jake would be working late tonight? He texted me at noon saying he'd be working on a special project. I can't imagine what Jake's talking about. I left work a bit late myself, and the parking lot was empty. Jake's car was already gone. Even though we don't work in the same department, I would know about any special projects or overtime work. Have you tried calling him? That's the problem, Mike. I did as soon as I got home to see when he'd be back, but his cell phone is on the kitchen table, so I can't reach him. If he's not at work, didn't you say you were going to give him a very special lovemaking session tonight that would leave him weak in the knees? Yes, I made that clear to him this morning. So the only conclusion I can draw is that he's avoiding me. What am I going to do, Mike? Sophie, I know Jake. He's just having a little pity party. He's playing a childish game to mess up your plans. If he chooses to miss out on tonight, then he's a fool. He doesn't realize how lucky he is to have you. After you're gone, he'll regret missing every moment with you. Jake's a good man, my best friend, but even good men can make stupid mistakes. You know what you want. You deserve it, and he's trying to ruin it. If you want to cancel, he'll understand. No, Mike. I'm not saying that. I've already put up with too much grief from him to cancel now. You're right, Mike. If he misses tonight, it's his loss. It'll save my energy for being with you this weekend. I can't thank you and Emily enough. That's the spirit, Sophie. Hopefully, Jake will come to his senses and spend some time with you. Thanks, Mike. I feel a lot better. I'll wait for him to come home, but I still plan on leaving around 9. I'll be at your place shortly after. Nothing would make me happier, Sophie. I promise to give you my best this weekend. I hope it's what you're looking for. I'm sure it will be. See you soon, Mike. Bye. As I sat in the restaurant, I thought about my options. If she goes with Mike, I will never touch her again. She would be breaking our wedding vows. She's not being forced, this is her choice. On top of that, I'm losing my 2 best friends. They're both part of Sophie's betrayal. I would never do to Mike what he's doing to me. The 3 of them will be dead to me. Divorce. I could have her served, but it would be pointless since she would be dead before it was finalized. I need to protect my finances. Who knows what she'll do next? I got home at 9:30 that night. She was gone. She had to be with Mike. I had never felt sadder or lonelier. The pain of loss was overwhelming, but I knew what I needed to do. I found a sealed envelope on the kitchen table with my name on it. It was under Sophie's cell phone. She didn't want to be disturbed this weekend. I was fine with that. I decided not to touch the envelope and left it unopened. When I checked my phone for messages, I saw that she'd called and texted me earlier. She was concerned at my lack of response and swore she'd make it up to me when she returned. She said she needed this and swore she loved me and only me. Her words meant nothing to me. I deleted them all. The first thing I did was move all my clothes and belongings from the master bedroom to the spare bedroom. I made sure not to leave a single trace that I had ever been in that room. Next, I took our wedding album and cut out all my images from every picture. I reassembled the album and left it on her bed. I called my brother and asked if I could stay with his family for a few nights. He has a spare bedroom and invited me to stay as long as I needed. I took one of Sophie's sleeping pills to help me sleep. Sometimes medicine can work wonders. The next morning, the doorbell woke me. I put on my robe and went to the door. "What are you doing here, Emily?" "I thought I made things clear to Mike yesterday," I said. "Good morning, Jake." "I could have used our key, you know," Emily replied. "We both have spare keys to each other's houses. Can I come in?" I realized she was right and let her in. "What you have to say, you can say it right here." "Why are you here?" "Well, if you answered your phone, I wouldn't have to come over," she said. "For the last time, Emily, why are you here?" "I'm here for you, Jake. Sophie told me you weren't happy with the plan, so I'm here to help you. You're one of my best friends." "Help me? How do you plan on doing that, Emily?" "However you need, Jake. I can be a friend to talk to, a housekeeper, a cook, or even someone to be with to help you feel better. We all agreed that you could have me just like they have each other this weekend. Clearly, the 3 of you have agreed to a lot of things I don't agree with. I have a lot to do today, and you're here at a bad time. Please leave and don't come back. If you use that key, I'll call the police." "Goodbye, Emily," I said, shutting the door. I watched from the window as she cried on the phone, probably talking to Mike or Sophie. I had tried to be polite, but I was still upset. She sat in her car for a few minutes, then drove away. After breakfast, I went to a store and bought new locks for 2 of the doors. I felt better knowing I had the only keys. Next, I changed my phone number so Sophie couldn't reach me. Lastly, I took off my wedding ring and crushed it in my workshop, leaving it on the kitchen table next to her phone. I packed a small bag and took my brother's family out for lunch on Sunday. Sophie was supposed to be back that afternoon, and I wanted to be gone before she arrived. I had a good time with my family. When Sophie got home Sunday afternoon, she expected to find her husband, who she would comfort until he forgot about her being gone. She was upset when he wasn't there. She thought he might be running errands until she saw their wedding album on the bed. She started crying when she saw he had cut himself out of all the pictures. Then she noticed all his clothes were gone too. Had he moved out? She saw the sealed letter she had left for him on the bed. She tried to call Jake, but the number was no longer in service. Things were getting worse. This wasn't what Mike had told her to expect. He had said Jake couldn't live without her. She checked the rest of the house and saw new locks on the spare bedroom door. Maybe he hadn't left but was just angry and staying in another room. Not sure of who to call, Sophie called Emily to see if Jake had said anything to her about his plans. No, Sophie. When I called Mike that morning, I told him everything Jake had said, which wasn't much. It really hurt when Jake was so mean to me. What's going on? Sophie told her what she found when she got home. Mike and Emily listened on speakerphone. Didn't you leave Jake the letter explaining that you were going to quit your job and spend your remaining time making him happy? Mike asked. Yes, Mike. I wrote him that letter just like you said, but he never opened it. He has no idea what it says. It's still here, she cried. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, Sophie. It's clear Jake moved his things to the spare bedroom to upset you. He's just having a pity party. He'll be back soon, trust me. I hope you're right. Thanks for the encouragement, Sophie said gratefully. Sophie then tried calling Jake's brother and parents. His parents had no idea where he was, and his brother said he hadn't heard from him, as Jake had asked. Sophie realized it was her turn to be patient, just as Jake had to be over the weekend, but she missed him deeply. She had never felt so disconnected from him, and cried herself to sleep alone in bed for the first time in a long while. At 6:30 a.m. Monday, I called work before the office opened, leaving a voicemail for my boss saying I needed 2 personal days for a family emergency. I didn't want to interact with Mike yet, nor did I want any of them to reach me at work. I decided to move some money around to protect our finances. We had a good nest egg after 23 years of marriage, and I wanted to keep it safe. The trust one once had in Sophie was gone. I moved 2/3 of our cash and investments into accounts only I could access. She wouldn't notice unless she went looking since all the bills would still get paid. This took most of the day, but I was glad to have a break from the drama. I knew the real confrontation would come when I returned home. I took a relaxing walk in the park Tuesday morning and had lunch at a nearby diner. The movie theaters opened at noon, so I spent the afternoon there. Tuesday night brought back some of the tension about facing her. I promised myself not to argue. I thanked my brother and his family for giving me a place to stay and time to think. Wednesday morning, I went back to work. My boss didn't ask about my family situation, and I appreciated that. As soon as Mike found out I was at work, he came straight to my office. Well, it's about time you showed up. Have you spoken with Sophie yet? She's worried sick about you, Mike said. He closed my office door. I ignored him, walked to the door, reopened it, and left the office without acknowledging him. He followed me for a short distance, calling after me as I headed to the men's room. I didn't respond. I decided not to communicate with Mike or Emily anymore. I was sure Sophie would keep them updated, but I wouldn't talk to them. Mike would let Sophie know he saw me. She called 4 times in a row. I put each call on hold and listened to music until she stopped calling. As I left work, Mike said nothing but followed me to a restaurant. I didn't want my meal ruined by an emotional conversation. He waited until I left and followed me again. I saw him on the phone as I neared my house. I knew he was talking to Sophie. She would be waiting for me. As I pulled into the driveway, she ran out to meet me, reaching for a hug. I quickly grabbed my gym bag to keep some distance between us as we entered the house. Sophie, tearful, began, "Where have you been, Jake? Do you have any idea how worried I've been? I've not had a moment's peace until you walked in. Don't you ever scare me like that again. I might have an idea of how worried you were. Were you as worried that I was with another woman as I was about you with another man? I doubt it. After all, that would be cheating, right? I hope Emily told you that I didn't let her in the house." Her unhappy expression showed she understood my remark. I was proud of myself for not raising my voice. Jake, I know you're upset, and that's why we need to talk this through and put it behind us. You have no idea how much I want you tonight. I plan to make it up to you. I just ate, Sophie. I'm sure Mike filled you in. Now is not a good time. I can't imagine there ever will be a good time. Your body is ruined for me by him. There's no way I can touch you now. Just the thought makes me sick. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Good night. Don't you walk away from me, Jake. I was worried sick, and you just dismiss me? That's not going to work. I want you in my bed tonight, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Look, Sophie, I just walked in the door, and I'm tired. Let me shower and change. I promise we'll talk later after I've cleaned up. Fair enough? Stunned that I showed no interest in being with her, she agreed to my request. I carried my bag to my bedroom and locked the door. After stripping down to my boxers, I took fresh clothes into the hall bath and had a long, hot shower. I knew this night would be tough. To her credit, she left me alone. She probably saw the lock on the hall bath door and didn't try to open it. I dressed and took my dirty clothes back to my room, locking the door again. I decided I would start washing my own clothes from now on. She was waiting for me in the den, sitting on the couch in a see-through negligee. I sat in a single chair next to the couch, which obviously annoyed her. Come over here, big boy, and sit beside me. I have a lot to tell you and show you, she said in her sexiest voice. I can hear you just fine from here. What do you want to tell me? Disappointed but determined, she said, I love you, and I know you love me. We are meant to be together forever. I'll get to the other side before you, but I'll wait for you until you join me. Until then, I hope you have a long, happy life, even if that means being with other women. I don't want to waste any more time without you in my arms. Let's put this issue behind us and never revisit it. I want to love you like never before until I die. That's what I want, Jake. I have some questions before we go any further. Of course, Jake. Go ahead. Did you have sex with Mike last weekend? She nodded silently. Did you do everything with him that you'd do with me? Mike said it would be best not to give you details. He said it might make you too angry. Angry? Oh, I see. So he's in charge of our marriage now. You've told me all I need to know. Good night, Sophie. I stood up to leave the room. Okay. I'll answer your questions. Please sit back down, she pleaded. Before you left for the weekend, I told you what the consequences would be. Instead of believing me, you believed him. You trusted the wrong man. Now you have to live with that. Stop calling him that. He's your best friend. He was your best friend before you met me. There are best friends. You're just upset. Mike said you might need time to calm down. He's right about that. I figure I might calm down in about, say, 6 months. Her eyes widened. 6 months? It'll be gone before then, Jake. You can't mean that. We need to get past this now. Let me help you get past it. I'll make it up to you. I'm sorry, Sophie. I'm not in the mood to vomit. Intentional nausea is not on my agenda. Are you leaving me, Jake? Are you saying this is the end of us? She asked, her voice trembling. I thought long and hard about that while you were with another man last weekend. As you know, I'm not the kind of man who abandons his vows. I'll keep and honor them until death do us part. I won't cheat on you like you did on me. I'll stay here in the house, but we will live in separate bedrooms. I'll pay the bills and do my usual chores. I'm not going anywhere. I won't abandon you in sickness and in health, remember? But my vows don't require me to have sex with you or kiss you ever again. All I ask is that you don't invite that man or his wife over here anymore. If you do, please let me know so I can leave until they're gone. What have I done? I have destroyed us. No, Jake, if what you say is true, it wasn't worth it. 1,000 weekends with him, or anyone else, wouldn't be worth it. My only hope is that you can find it in your heart to forgive me before it's too late. I'm sorry, Jake. I'm sorry for what I've done to us. The heart doesn't always listen to what the brain says it should never do. Do one more thing, Sophie. Since you will no longer be having sex with me, if you ever get with him again or anyone else, please don't do it in this house. Meet them somewhere else. I don't want to know about it. Her face reddened with anger. Now you listen to me, and you listen good. That was a one-time thing. It will never happen again. I want the last man I'm with to be you. I swear I'll never be with another man besides you. I heard you make that same vow on our wedding day. Forgive me for having trouble believing you. She began sobbing uncontrollably. I went to my bedroom, locked the door, and left her crying on the couch. The next morning, I left for work early to avoid her. Mid-morning, Mike stormed into my office. I'm not leaving, Jake, until you talk to me. What you're doing to Sophie is unforgivable. I'm going to talk to you until you change your mind. I picked up the phone and called my boss. Hi, Dennis. I have a problem. Mike is in my office and won't leave. He's interfering with my work. Can you help? After a pause, I said, Thanks, Dennis. Are you serious? You're not man enough to talk to me, so you call in the boss? Something like that, I said as my office phone rang. Yes, sir. I'll put him on. It's for you, I said, handing Mike the phone. Hello? Yes, sir. I understand. It won't happen again. Defeated, he handed me the receiver. This isn't over, Jake. We have too much history for things to end this way. I ignored him until he left. He knew I would report any further harassment at work. If he contacted me outside of work, I would deal with it then. Sophie had less than 2 good months left, according to the doctors. I could manage 2 months of hell if I had to. That evening, I visited a family restaurant to avoid eating with Sophie. I needed to find places to eat after she was gone. When I got home, she had cooked dinner. Hi, honey. I fixed your favorite. I hope you're hungry. I noticed you were a bit late, but I kept it warm for us. I'm sorry, but I've already eaten. That's why I'm late. Since you won't be around much longer, I'm finding places to eat after you're gone. I should have told you I'll be eating out from now on. That should make things easier for you. You jerk. You're taking that away from me too. You've made it clear that I'm off limits for sex, but I was hoping you'd let me cook for you. Am I nothing to you now? Is that it? I can't say the words you want to hear, Sophie. You say you're sorry for being with another man. I'm sorry there are consequences for your actions. Neither of us is happy, but it is what it is. I'm going to my room now. She began crying again. Jake, you don't need to hide in your room all the time. Can't you at least watch TV down here or something? I don't have the plague, and I can't infect you with my cancer. Please don't shut me out completely. I'll think about it, but only if you promise 2 things, I said. Tell me, she replied. First, never mention that weekend or what it cost us. I don't want to hear your side of the story. And the other, never talk about that jerk or his wife to me again. If you see them, don't tell me about it before or after. Deal? She looked sad that I was so harsh with her friends. Deal. She never asked to choose what to watch on TV. We only talked about work, politics, family, or boring stuff. She kept her promise about the tough topics, but I knew they were there. If she called my old friends, she did it when I wasn't around. She knew it upset me, so we had an uneasy peace. I heard her crying herself to sleep every night. I don't think she regretted what she did, only what happened afterward. Then she surprised me on Saturday. She asked to join me for breakfast and lunch. Since I wouldn't let her cook, I stopped that by eating cereal and then mowing the lawn. I did the dishes after I ordered a sandwich for lunch to keep working on the car. She was doing laundry and asked me to add my clothes to hers. I said no, I would do them myself. She cried again and walked away. Who knew a woman would cry over her husband doing his own laundry? I was glad to have chores to keep me busy and not think about my pain. Later I heard noise. Our kids, Dylan and Grace, along with Olivia and Ethan, were chatting with their mom. I asked why they were here. Hey, Dad, it's good to see you too, Dylan said and hugged me. We've been talking to Mom since she got sick. She doesn't have many good days left, so we brought food for a cookout. You and Mom relax, we'll handle everything. I loved seeing the kids, but this wasn't a coincidence. I bet Sophie planned it. Like they say, all's fair in love and war. We weren't fighting a war, but it felt close enough for her to use the kids. An hour later, I was told the grill was clean and everything was ready. Sophie said, Jake, honey, the kids want ice cream, but I need to get a few things. I'll be back soon, and left. As soon as she did, I felt attacked by my kids. Olivia asked, Daddy, can we talk? Of course, I said. She started, Daddy, Mom and I talk a lot. We know about what she did with Uncle Mike. She told me. We were surprised, but now we understand. We get why it was hard for you, but you've had time to think. She won't do it again, and we believe her. This was just something she wanted to do before she died. Can't you forgive her? You haven't touched her since, and you stopped talking to Uncle Mike and Aunt Emily. Dad, they've always been your best friends. Don't you see Uncle Mike was just helping someone who is dying? So you think I should just forget about it? I asked. All four of them nodded. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I loved these people more than anything and didn't want to alienate them. Then an idea came to me. Dylan, you're my son. You know I would die for you without a second thought, right? Sure, Dad. You've always been there for me. No doubt about it. And Grace, as my son's wife, you know I love you too, don't you? I would die for you as well if I had to, I said. Of course, Dad, and we love you just as much. All four of us would do anything for you and Mom. That's why we're here, because we love both of you so much, she replied. I'm glad to hear that, Grace. It makes it easier to ask this next question. As you know, I'm not getting any younger. Because of what your mother did, I've thought a lot about bucket lists, even my own. So, Dylan, would you be willing to let Grace spend a weekend with me to fulfill a bucket list item? If she and I spent a weekend together like your mom and Mike did, it would show me that you mean what you say and are willing to back it up with actions. If you do that, maybe I could forgive your mother. What? Are you crazy? Dylan shouted. Grace turned bright red at the suggestion. There's no way I would ever agree to that, Dad. Not even if you were dying. I realize Grace isn't your blood relative, but it still feels like incest to me. I can't believe you'd even suggest it. He was furious. Oh, you mean like Uncle Mike and your mom? That kind of thing? I asked. They all fell silent, thinking about what I would said. I let the moment linger before speaking again. Grace, I owe you and my son an apology. I would never ask such a thing, not even if I was dying. I asked to make a point. Dylan, you said you wouldn't agree to it even if I was dying. Neither would I. It's easier for you to forgive your mom because you aren't married to her. But think about this, Dylan. If Grace went with me and came back, would you look at her the same way again? Could you forgive her as easily as you're asking me to forgive your mother? The room was silent as they thought it over. Then Dylan nodded at Ethan, and they shook hands. Olivia hugged Grace. Dylan turned to me. Dad, you're right. Thanks for teaching us another important life lesson. We were only seeing this from Mom's perspective. We hadn't thought about it from your side, and you've opened our eyes. We don't love Mom any less and still want her to be happy until the end, but we understand that she lost the right to ask for your forgiveness when she did what she did. We agree with your feelings about Uncle Mike and Aunt Emily. We're not taking sides. We love both of you, but we won't pressure you to forgive Mom. She'll have to accept that. We'll be there for her in every way we can, but we won't support her using us to force you to forgive her. I couldn't be prouder of all four of you. I never wanted you to turn your backs on your mother. She will need you more than ever toward the end, and I know you'll be there for her. I hugged each of them in turn, feeling relieved at how things had turned out. The rest of the evening went well. Sophie seemed happy with my positive attitude when she returned from the store. The kids cooked the burgers and hot dogs perfectly, and the soft-served strawberry ice cream for dessert was delicious. Sophie didn't get a chance to talk to them alone because I stayed close. After the cleanup, hugs, and kisses, Sophie wanted to talk to me. You seem to be in a good mood, Jake. It's wonderful to see you smile so much, she said. The kids always cheer me up when they visit. How could I not smile with them around? A little birdie told me they were going to talk to you while I was at the store. They didn't seem angry, so did the conversation go well? Did they persuade you to see things my way? Your way? They said they loved us both equally and weren't taking sides. That seemed fair to me. You and I did a great job raising those kids, didn't we? My birdie made me think you'd either see things my way or be left out in the cold. I don't know about that, Sophie. Maybe you should check with your birdie again. I'm going to take a shower and change. It's been a busy day for both of us. I left her puzzled as I headed to the shower. I knew she'd talked to Olivia while I was getting cleaned up. I wondered how her attitude would change after their talk. You're just being stubborn and can't get over yourself, Sophie yelled as I walked in. Maybe it's good you learn that now before wasting time with me, I said. Ensure your friend will be a much better husband since I'm clearly not good enough. She ignored me and said, Seriously? You asked Grace to sleep with you? You should check with her before making things worse. I just used it as a lesson. They told me they were staying neutral after hearing me out. I would never do anything with Grace. Ask her yourself if you don't believe me. She was mad because using the kids didn't work. I bet Olivia told her what happened. She was just trying to make me angry. I sat down and started watching TV. She went to her room and slammed the door. I hoped she'd stay there. Another week went by with us barely talking. She was getting more frustrated, but we lived peacefully enough. We still didn't eat together, and I did my own laundry and dishes. She went out the next Saturday night, and came back late. I thought she saw those awful people, but she didn't say, and I didn't ask. I think that made her even angrier. The next Monday, the big boss, Mr. Reynolds, was in my office. I rarely saw him. Good morning, sir. What brings you here? I asked politely. It's Jake, right? Jake Greenlee? Yes, sir. Jake, I've heard good things about you. Your boss, Dennis, says you do great work. I like to know what's happening in the company, and I want you to know you're valuable. Thank you, sir. That means a lot. Yes, but there's something else. Of course, sir. Go ahead. Jake, do you know Richard McLean? I know of a Richard McLean, sir. He's my wife's father. Right. He's my golfing buddy. We've known each other for years. He never said you worked here until recently. He wanted you to succeed on your own, and you have. I respect that. But Richard said you and his daughter are having problems. He also said she has cancer and doesn't have long to live. Is that true? Yes, sir, but he cut me off. As a father, Richard just wants his daughter to be happy in her last days. I'm sure you understand. He asked me to check on you. Sometimes men need to be nicer to their wives. It happens to everyone. I'm sure you're a good husband. I wouldn't want to hear from Richard that you're not doing your part at home. Your job reviews look at your character too, you know. I was shocked my father-in-law was telling on me. I couldn't blame him, but I don't like being pressured. I didn't want to upset the CEO more, so I said, Of course, sir. Thank you. I'll handle it. Make sure you do. I don't want to have this talk again. I promise, sir. You won't need to. Thank you for your advice. He left happy, thinking he'd fixed his friend's problem. After he was gone, I wrote my resignation letter and packed my things. I went to HR, handed in my letter, gave back my ID, and left the building. This solved two problems. It kept me away from my ex-friend and my father-in-law's meddling. But it created another. I was unemployed. I had a lot of time to think now. It was still early, so I went home and did some chores. Sophie came home from work at her usual time. You're home early. How come? She asked. I gave her my usual annoyed look. I quit my job today. You what? She yelled. Yeah, it seems your dad had it in for me, so I had no other choice, I said calmly. My dad? How on earth did my dad make you quit your job? Since you asked, I learned today that your dad regularly golfs with the CEO of my company, Richard Zallo. Mr. Reynolds came to my office this morning and told me your dad had been complaining about how I've been treating you. He made it clear that unless I fixed things at home to your dad's satisfaction, my job could be in jeopardy. He threatened me with bad performance reviews that would affect my career. As you know, I don't take threats kindly. Even if I became your dream husband again, the damage is done. I've been cast in a bad light by the CEO, so I resigned my position, and here I am. How dare you blame my dad for you losing your job? You're a quitter, Jake. You quit on me, our marriage, and your job. Now you want to blame my dad for your failures? He's a better man than you'll ever be, she fumed. I see my mistake. I'm sorry for telling you the truth. I won't make that mistake again. How about this? My big toe hurt today, so I quit. Is that a better reason for you? You jerk. Why do you have to be so stubborn? Why can't you forgive me and let us get back to our normal happy life before it's too late? Why would you want to be with a stubborn jerk like me? It makes no sense. That ex-friend is a much better man than he'll ever be. Why don't you move in with them and enjoy the time you have left? He was the last one you had sex with. I bet he'd be happy to do it again. Why stay with me if I'm such a loser? Because I love you and only you, Jake. No matter what, you're the only man I've ever truly loved. You're just too blind to see it, she said, frustrated. We were both stuck, she in her love for me, and me in my refusal to accept her infidelity. We remained at a standstill. I'm going to get something to eat. He'll be back later. Why don't you call your dad while I'm gone and see if he can get someone to beat me up for you? I said sarcastically. I thought she was out of tears. I was wrong. I left the house alone to avoid more drama and have a peaceful meal out. Evidently, she did call her father while I was out, and she was waiting for me when I got back. I'm sorry, Jake. I had no idea my father would use his friendship with your boss to try to blackmail you. As much as I love my dad and appreciate what he was trying to do, messing with someone's career isn't right. His heart was in the right place. I take full responsibility because I hadn't told him the whole truth about my part in our problems. I figured as much. Look, I understand why your dad would try to use his influence to help you. You know I would do anything to help our kids, but I thought he was a better man than that. Now I see he didn't have all the facts. Well, I'm going to fix that if I can, and Dad's going to help me. Unless he never wants to see me again. What do you mean, Sophie? How can you fix anything about my career? I've made a decision. Tomorrow morning, I'm resigning from my job. I won't need another job anyway. Dad and I are going to help you find a better job than the one you had. It's our fault you were put in a tough position, so it's our job to make it right. Dad knows a lot of people besides your boss. He'll use his connections, and so will I. We'll do our best to find the perfect job for you. Is that okay? This is a surprise. I was expecting another argument, but this is unexpected. I don't know what my options are, but I'm happy to accept help from you both. Thank you. I twisted Dad's arm, and he's taking a vacation week to help us. I'm going to find you another job or die trying, she joked. True to her word, Richard was at our house early the next morning. He rode with Sophie to work, as she resigned from her job. She had planned on resigning soon anyway, and was relieved to avoid the sorry you're dying going away party they would have held. When they returned, our house became job central that week. All three of us were constantly on the phone with business contacts and connections. Getting interviews was easy, but we wanted each interview to be a solid opportunity, not a long shot. The economy was shrinking, and good jobs were scarce. I must have gone on a dozen interviews that week with their help. I would never seen Sophie more dedicated. She had a fierce determination to honor her word. Help came from an unlikely source. Richard swallowed his pride and contacted Thomas Zallo, explaining that he'd misunderstood his daughter's situation and had acted too quickly. He said he was sorry for causing trouble at Richard's work and explained that I couldn't go back to my old job. Thomas was upset to lose me and blamed his friend for overreacting, but then he quickly said he'd make some calls to help me out. Just 45 minutes later, we got a surprising call from Pioneer Creations. They needed someone new to handle their buying. They're a special kind of factory that helps inventors make their product ideas real. Investors give money for the ideas, and Wellington makes them into actual products. Making all sorts of different things is hard, but they found their own special way of doing it. We learned that most of the new products don't become popular, but the few that do make all the effort worth it. I talked to them the next day, but it felt like they'd already decided to hire me. They'd had problems with the last few people in that job being dishonest, so they were looking for someone honest and trustworthy. Though Matt's good word about me really helped. They offered me a lot more money than I used to make. Thomas was a really good guy. I would start in 3 weeks after they cleaned up some staff issues. I thanked Richard and Sophie for their help in getting this great chance. They both said it was the least they could do since they were involved in me losing my old job. Richard and I were back to being friends again. He appreciated that before the whole weekend thing, I was a good husband to his daughter. He also said many men wouldn't have stayed with their wives in a similar situation, and Sophie would have been alone at the end. He got teary-eyed as we shook hands, saying he had his respect for me back. It was like Sophie had been holding on just to see me get this new job. The next day, she collapsed in pain and turned very yellow. I rushed her to the hospital, where they told us this was the cancer's normal course. Her doctor sent her home with many medications to help with the pain and make her comfortable. When people found out, they visited her, it seemed, to say goodbye. I did my best to make everyone feel welcome and tried to schedule the visits so they wouldn't all come at once. One afternoon, Sophie told me that Mike, Emily, and their kids wanted to visit her. I said I understood and would arrange it. She knew what that meant. I called Olivia and asked her to be with her mom during the visit and to text me when they left. She took care of it. My daughter is very smart. It worked out well, and I avoided an unpleasant encounter. That visit opened Olivia's eyes. Our kids started spending more time with Sophie, knowing she didn't have much time left. 2 weeks later, Sophie was too weak to get out of bed. Insurance let me hire a nurse for the daytime, and I took care of her at night after work. She was very thin and weak. She had a machine to help with the pain. All she had to do was press a button. She couldn't talk on the phone anymore, so I put it away. Everything went through me now. Emily called to ask about Sophie and was worried that she couldn't reach her. I explained, and she asked to visit again. I said it wasn't a good idea. She was sad but didn't push it. Our kids and their spouses took turns helping me so I could rest sometimes. That was a big help. As Sophie got worse, I offered to put her in hospice, but she strongly refused, saying she wanted to die at home with loved ones. I sadly agreed. Sophie fell into a deep sleep and couldn't be woken up. I thought it was like a coma and knew the end was near. One of our kids was always there, ready to call the rest of us if anything changed. Late one night, I was in her room, ready to sleep myself. Suddenly, Sophie sat up. She'd been almost unresponsive for 2 weeks, and now she was sitting up. I don't know how she did it. She looked radiant and had the most beautiful smile. Then she spoke. "I'm sorry I hurt you, Jake. Please forgive me. I love you so much." I rushed to her, kissed her, and said, "Of course I forgive you, Sophie. I love you too." She gently lay back down and fell asleep again. I knew this was it and called all the kids in. They stayed with me as I held her hand. 4 hours later, she took her last breath. All of us cried and hugged each other, clinging to the love we had for one another, a love that came from her. I was exhausted making the arrangements, but Dylan and Olivia were a big help. Sophie had made things easier by planning almost everything in advance. She was cremated, and we held a memorial service at a nearby chapel. Olivia told me nervously that her mom had asked for Mike to speak after the minister. She believed it would be too much to ask of me. I was stunned that she had made these arrangements without telling me, but the kids begged me to honor her wish. I agreed for their sake. Before the service started, the family met to console each other and greet visitors. I wasn't surprised to be hugged by Anna, Ryan, and Sophia. They were our godchildren and had nothing to do with their parents' actions. I hugged them back, realizing how much I still loved them. Mike and Emily kept their distance but spoke to everyone else. Richard held up better than I thought he would. He made it clear he didn't want any distance between us, and I felt the same. During the memorial, Grace, Dylan's wife, sat on my left, holding my hand. Olivia was on my right, holding my other hand. I loved my children and appreciated the love Sophie had instilled in them for family. The minister gave an inspiring message of hope and deliverance. The music included 3 songs close to Sophie's heart. Mike then took the stage. Grace and Olivia squeezed my hands, reassuring me they were there to help me get through this. Mike said Sophie had asked him to read a letter she wrote. She must have given it to him during their last visit when Olivia was there. The letter encouraged everyone to make the most of their time, forgive one another, and stay in contact with me and the kids. She even joked about helping me find quality women to live a full life. Everyone, including me, laughed at that. That was just like Sophie. When he finished, Mike added his own words. I've known Jake longer than anyone here. Sophie wanted us all to forgive one another. I admit I did something wrong for the right reasons, but Jake refuses to forgive me. We've been best friends since junior high, yet he can't find it in his heart to forgive me this one time. As Mike continued, Dylan stood up and gave the signal to the minister, who turned off Mike's microphone. Grace, Olivia, Ethan, and Dylan helped me leave the main chapel. Emily, Anna, Ryan, and Sophia also stood up and walked out with us. Mike was shocked to see his own family leave. Dylan explained, Anna told me she overheard her dad might call you out. I arranged a signal with the minister to cut his mic if he did. I spoke to him firmly when he arrived, and he swore he'd only say what Mom wanted. I looked at Anna. She said, I love my dad, and I love all of you. What he said wasn't right. We know what happened and stand with you today. Your family too. I'm sorry we've been distant since that weekend. I love you all even more now. You've shown your true colors, and I like what I see. Emily added, but you, Teresa, Jake, I'm sorry for my part in all this. All I can do is offer my deepest apology and condolences. What my husband did was wrong, and I don't support him attacking you publicly. I'm embarrassed. Please don't let his actions ruin your happiness. You have a wonderful family to support you. Take joy in them, she urged. Teresa, a wise person, once told me, you can be bitter or better, but you can't be both. Teresa hugged me tightly. She was still married to Mike and had supported his and Sophie's actions. I didn't know if I could ever overcome that. Moments later, the doors opened, and the crowd began exiting the chapel. Everyone who passed offered their condolences. I asked the kids, including Anna, Ryan, and Sophia, to take care of the flowers from the service. They promised they would and thanked me. As I prepared to leave, Anna asked if she could accompany me. Dylan and Olivia nodded in approval as she took my hand and led me to my car. She drove us home and prepared a wonderful meal from the many dishes friends had brought. She cleaned the kitchen and kept me company until supper as my kids came over. Anna hugged me tightly, said she loved me, and asked me to stay close. Anna was a good person and had been raised well. Over the next few weeks, Mike tried several times to make up with me, but I refused. His kids invited me and my kids over a couple of times for barbecues, but they never mentioned Mike or Emily. After that, we didn't talk as much. Everyone has their own lives, and I wasn't sad about it. I focused on my job, making sure to get everything we needed on time and for a good price. I had a team of 7 people, 3 of whom were new. I was proud of how well we were working together. Everyone did their part, and I thought of them as my work family. A little over a year after Sophie died, I got a mysterious text from Dylan asking me to meet him at a fancy restaurant called Le Gourmet on Saturday night. He said it was his treat and that he was working on something special and wanted me to meet his contact there. He asked me to dress up in a suit. I wondered what he was up to and was happy he wanted to include me. I got my best suit cleaned for the meeting. Le Gourmet is a fancy place where important people go for special occasions. It's expensive but known for its amazing food. I had never been there before. Dylan told me to give my name to the person at the door when I arrived. He quickly checked my reservation and asked me to follow the waiter to my table. As we walked, I could feel the romantic atmosphere with couples looking lovingly at each other. There were also a few tables with businessmen, which I thought was where I was headed. As we got closer, I saw a well-dressed woman sitting alone at a table. I thought she looked very elegant, and that some man was lucky. I was surprised when the waiter stopped and told me to sit at her table. There must be some mistake, I said. No, there's no mistake, he replied. May I help you with your chair? I pulled out the chair across from the woman and sat down. She seemed as surprised as I was. Hello, Emily. Jake, what are you doing here? She asked. I'm guessing the same reason as you. Let me guess, did Dylan invite you here tonight? No, Anna did. I was supposed to meet her here at 8. And I was supposed to meet Dylan here at 8. I think something's fishy. Right then, both our phones buzzed with new messages. We both read them. Let me guess, Anna can't make it tonight. How did you? Oh, I see. Yes, we've been tricked by our kids. The waiter waited patiently as if he expected something. Emily, since we're here, would you like to order something instead of wasting the night? Might as well, she agreed. I've heard good things about this place. Me too, I said, looking at the waiter. Yes, sir, could we have 2 menus? Oh, that won't be necessary, sir, he said, clapping his hands twice. 3 waiters quickly came from the kitchen with trays of delicious-smelling food. They put the dishes in front of us as if they already knew what we wanted and then left quickly. We were both surprised again. How? When? But these are all my favorite dishes, Emily exclaimed. Mine too. It's like someone who knows us both very well ordered for us. Isn't it? Those rascals, she said. I must say, if I'm going to be surprised, I can think of worse things to be surprised with. You're right about that, I said, understanding what she meant. I can guess why they did this. They knew you'd never contact me. You made it clear how you felt about us after everything happened, and now looking back, I don't blame you, Jake. Actually, I don't mind so much since it's just you, but if he had been here with you, I would have never sat down. He? You mean Mike? Are you saying you don't know? She asked, surprised. No. What? Has something happened to him? I haven't talked to him since before Sophie died, and the kids know better than to bring him up to me. I see. Well, that explains it then. A lot has happened. Do you want to hear the story? Emily, I have nothing else planned tonight. You've made me curious. Okay, but I have to warn you that you might hear his name a lot in my story. It's been over a year. I think I can handle it without getting upset. Go ahead, Emily. About 3 weeks after Sophie's memorial service, Mike felt something wasn't right, so he went to the doctor, who sent him to a specialist. He was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. The only option was major surgery to remove his prostate. The cancer was so advanced that they had to remove every trace. During the surgery, they severed many blood vessels and nerves. After his recovery, Mike realized the surgery had left him impotent. The severed blood vessels meant he couldn't get enough blood flow to achieve an erection. The damaged nerves left him with no sensation for arousal or orgasm. Mike couldn't ejaculate anymore. This news shocked me. I hadn't heard any of this. The kids had protected me from hearing about his condition. She saw the surprise on my face and continued. I hope you don't mind my honesty, Jake. I've been close friends with you and Sophie, so I feel comfortable sharing personal details with you. I nodded. After the surgery, Mike had regular radiation treatments that affected him mentally and emotionally. At first, he tried hard to take care of my needs in other ways. I think it helped his self-image, But eventually, his frustration took over, and he stopped trying. He told me to buy toys to take care of myself. He became depressed and refused counseling. He started drinking heavily and became verbally abusive. When he lost his job, things got worse. He started hitting me. I refused to stay a victim. After 3 strikes, he was out. My divorce from Mike was granted just last week, Jake. I haven't been intimate with a man for nearly a year. My mind raced hearing about what they had been through. Though I would never say it out loud, I thought karma is a bitch. Then I looked at Emily. I didn't know Emily. I don't know what to say. I had no idea about his diagnosis or how he mistreated you. I feel foolish for turning my back on you too. I wish I had been there for you. You didn't deserve that any more than you deserved what happened to you, Jake. It looks like we both got a raw deal. I reached across the table and placed my hand over hers. We can't change the past, but maybe we can do something about the future. I got up, moved my chair next to hers, leaned over, and gave her a tender kiss. She was as receptive as I was. Right after our kiss ended, we heard a group of people jump up and shout yes, while pumping their arms in the air. We noticed all our kids and their spouses sitting at a large table in the corner, watching us. We laughed until our sides hurt, and we could hardly breathe. The sweetness of our kids' gesture, the love Emily and I shared, and the challenges we had both faced bonded us in a unique way. The dark clouds lifted, and sunshine once again prevailed. We told the kids they still had to pay the check. The funny thing was that all 5 couples fought fiercely for the privilege to pay it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. What would you do in this situation? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.